Welcome back to the show, everybody. You're going to like what we got lined up for you today. Today, we're going to look at this. Ripple unlocking $10 trillion. Don't believe me when I say it, but maybe you want to believe Cindy Young when you hear her say it from Ripple. We're also going to talk about James Wallace. We're going to talk about BIS and the mBridge. Very important because it brings us back to the Bank of China and the U.S. translation this time of exactly what Ripple can do. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook at the top of the screen for exclusive content. Good morning. It is August 8th, 2022, and right now we got a $1.135 trillion market cap for crypto. A lot of money coming back into the space right now. Bitcoin, 24,000, slightly over. Ethereum, almost $1,800, up 7.28% on the 7-day, and 5.5 on the 24-hour. XRP at the number 6 spot, up 2.26% on the 24-hour. We're at 38 cents this morning. We're 1% on the 7-day. Careful what we call progress out here, but you know what? We're going to look at some incredible information today, and I think you're going to like every bit of it. Ranging between 37, 38 cents, a tight trading range. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't mess around. I diversify, and I do it with glint. And I tell you right now, we know central banks do funny things. Besides manipulating and fudging the numbers of inflation, they've all been hoarding gold at an alarming rate. And I'm trying to do the same for myself, and I do it with GlintPay. I love being a customer. I love working with them, but I love being a customer even more because I can put my gold on my app, my debit card, and I can spend and hedge the inflation that is absolutely spiraling out of control. It was supposed to be transitory, they said. Link under the video. Michael Branch right here. If BlackRock puts out a 0.5%, 0.5% of their assets under management into Bitcoin using my multiplier, which is 21 times, that will impact the market cap by $1.05 trillion, which will add about $75,000 to Bitcoin's price, taking it to $98,000. How about that one? Also, they can buy a crypto asset that is powered by proof of work, which is not necessary to run a blockchain. I'm sure it's going to end just fine, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I hope everybody in Bitcoin makes $1 bazillion, and at different times I hold it. I've scalped it before for profits, all that business, and that's great. But I tell you, you know, I am concerned about the longevity of Bitcoin as proof of work. We will keep an eye on it to see what happens, but it doesn't mean that you can't make money on it, right? I mean, that's the truth of it. The point is that are you going to be the one left holding the bag should there be a carbon tax, which really could collapse the desire to hold it? Right here, we see another article that says this. We're going to address what I believe to be some XRP FUD, but I am going to share an opinion here. By the SEC uncertainty, says the article from Ripple and the SEC lawsuit, and sell the settlement news. This August update basically says here, we need to go through it quickly. Ripple's XRP is still not long-term hold for this Practical Crypto Capital says, but does have unique medium-term profit opportunity because of the SEC lawsuit due to macroeconomic concerns. The specific crypto disasters, the token prices decreased by 60% since my last update. Ripple has recently announced some interesting partnerships, but the on-demand liquidity volume metric reveals how poorly they are doing against SWIFT. Oh, really? The SWIFT network is formidably adversary and is not going away. Stablecoins and multi-CBDC projects also threaten Ripple's business. This sounds like someone who does not understand the use of it. Let me just very quickly do this, okay? First of all, Ripple has recently announced some interesting partnerships, but the on-demand liquidity volume metric reveals how poorly they're doing against SWIFT. SWIFT has trillions and trillions of dollars. They are the current leader, right? They are the answer and solution for messaging of payments. Now, it takes days to settle and sometimes several days to settle the payments, but ODL has done $15 billion to date, and it's an impressive number. And I would remind people, because this person sounds like they've never owned a business. And I can tell you from a personal story of my own, I had a company that I achieved a very small market share, market grab, if you will, of the largest leader in a business. And the founder of the company called me within 3 months of my business launching to tell me he was going to sue me into oblivion and threaten to do so. And I tell you, and it was a scare tactic that worked at the time because I didn't have the capital to get through such a measure. But the reality is that you don't have to have 90% of someone's business to get their attention. You just have to have a solution that works. We're going to get more into that in just a second. Nevertheless, Swift Network is still a formidable adversary and is not going away, says stablecoins and multi-CBD projects also threaten Ripple's business. I don't see that as a real viable fact, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, if you have USD stablecoin and you're US company to US company, or you just simply want to receive USDC, why would you need to use XRP? You don't need to use XRP. And that is really the design of XRP and the ledger. You know, we're going to hear from James Wallace on this in a second, but multiple CBDCs, let's get down to this understanding. Other central banks don't want to continue to hold each other's money, albeit paper or digital. Look at what's going on in Japan right now. There's a huge collapse happening in Japan right now. Banks freezing up funds of their citizens. Bank runs don't happen. I mean, you know, this reminds me of someone who's not really versed on what's truly going on here. You know, I've been here a long time. You know, you can't scare me with this kind of uneducated talk here. The truth is that multiple digital CBD currencies have to be settled by something. And the reason is because they can send them back and forth for each other for free. But what are we missing here? I'll tell you what we're missing. You're missing the opportunity that the central banks may still be wrestling with, but they're going to get it at some point. If you use a bridge asset like XRP and the payment rail XRPLedger, and only use XRP as a bridge where you need to, you are going to create a new money for the world and for themselves. So aside from unlocking dormant capital, which you're about to hear Cindy Young talk about, you're also creating a new money, a legitimate money, a legitimate currency, which I believe can become a global stablecoin for the world. Now, let's get on to that, because that's the heart of what they say here. They go on to talk about why MoneyGram is not using Ripple or XRP anymore. MoneyGram's not using Ripple or XRP anymore simply because they got sued and they had to distance themselves, rightfully so. They can't be involved in that. But as proof, we see plenty of other remittance companies and banks around the world continue to adopt the technology of RippleNet and the use of XRP. RippleNet enables TransferGo to integrate with local banks and financial institutions. This is it right here. I mean, you see they continue to grow. 95% of their customers around the world. Quick reminder right here, the Ripple Evidence Board, not one person from the SEC here. Look at all these companies they're all tied into or are now gone and work to. So either they came from the Treasury and are on the Ripple board, or they've gone from Ripple to Standard Chartered, SBI, early investor out of Japan, Accenture, Diana Adachi helped do the due diligence on the green light for XRP to the financial community, Sandy O'Connor, Zoe Cruz, Anya Manuel, and many, many others tied into former presidential economic advisors and such. Are they wrong? Did they come here to put a blemish on their illustrious careers? I don't think so. This is Cindy Young right here from Managing Director of Europe Ripple. Listen to what she says. Shout out to DAI for these two clips. Well, you're going to like the rest of this video. I'm going to tell you that.
So from the very, very first days, Ripple has always worked with governments, regulators, others, other fintechs in the ecosystem, banks, fintechs, you name it. It's always been a very much partnership mentality.
Yeah.
And today it continues, right? We have part of our business has created, for example, a private version of the XRP-Ledger, which allows governments basically issue and manage central bank digital currencies. Again, we have, partnership with government of like Bhutan and Palau, that's, out in the public. Good examples, we're part of Digital Pound Foundation in the UK, again, working with the non-profits and the governments to help the thinking and design and implementation of potentially a digital pound.
Do you think they're on those foundations so they can not be a part of it? Yeah, we all sat down and brainstormed it, and we still thought that we probably shouldn't use XRP, but thank you, Ripple, for coming. And that isn't the way the world works.
So there are many, many examples, but I think it has really helped, in a way, differentiate Ripple as well in the market, because now, some of the more traditional players in the market, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, would not sit and have a conversation about having a digital asset in the payment flow. Today, coming to us and saying, well, we see the future is going to crypto, come help us, and we're becoming essentially the partner of choice for financial institutions who are looking to transform their payments with crypto and blockchain, and really that original, I guess, approach and collaborative approach has really, I think, helped us fuel that growth that I was just talking about.
I mean, she said it. We've talked about it. Guess what else she's going to talk about? $10 trillion locked up and the error rate of SWIFT transactions, which is unsustainable. And I remind you, as you hear her speak here, and at the information we're about to look at after this video, you're going to hear SWIFT may have created SWIFT GPI, but that is a fast instant payment solution. It is not a fast instant settlement solution. Let's keep that in mind, because the Bank of China's got an idea about SWIFT and RippleNet. We're going to get to that in a second too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, kind of to take a step back and understand kind of the inefficiencies we're talking about, right? Today, about $10 trillion just sitting in accounts around the world waiting for a payment to be made in that one country in the right currency, right? The typical way of money transfer companies, banks, the way they make payments is they park the right currency in the right country so that they can do that, as kind of real time and the right time as possible. But as I said, it's $10 trillion, which is very inefficient, right? Sitting there doing nothing, idle. About 6% of payments that are sent globally get stuck. Nobody knows where they are.
Now imagine for a second you using Google search engine or whatever engine you use, and 6% of your searches just flat out 404 error, just fail. Imagine 6% of your emails just failing.
So there's a lot of massive problems. It still takes about 2 to 3 days to send the payment, depending on where you are around the world. So there's a lot of those inefficiencies, and an example of kind of what we bring to the table with RippleNet, and specifically the on-demand liquidity solution on RippleNet, which essentially uses XRP, which is a digital asset, as a bridge to move money, to move fiat around.
Oh, so it's not just the Ripple software everybody keeps saying it's only going to be?
What it brings is real-time settlements, not having to, the company, the financial institutions no longer need to park these funds. There's 10 trillion around the world. They can use that funds instead to fuel their growth, grow their companies. Real-time, it's 24/7, 365 days, right? So somebody wants to plan the payment Christmas morning, it can still get there. So those are the 24/7, 365 liquidity, real-time settlements, are some of the efficiencies that we bring to customers.
Now you're telling me that these banks, however reluctant they may be to use a stateless money, you're telling me that if they understand, once it really dawns on them that, hey, I can unlock all of this $10 trillion out here, all of us, whether we're a small, medium enterprise, some kind of financial institution, or a full-on central bank, we can unlock this $10+ trillion and have access to it for the first time in the history of mankind. And I can hold one account of XRP. So not only do I unlock the money that's dormant, but I also agree to put my payments on your rails, and I can hold XRP at some point too and have a new money. Plus I unlock the money I already have. Oh. James Wallace, Ripple leads central bank engagement for central bank digital currencies right here. I'm not going to play this whole thing because I played it over the weekend, but this is powerhouse right here. Private ledger, he's talking about it too. Ripple has been deploying nodes on the Amazon Web Services sandbox for years. I want you to have just the first minute, 30 seconds of this, and he talks about how quickly all of this will come about in his mind.
Absolutely. So as we thought about how we would get started on this, building out this solution and platform, cloud was front and center. We've been deploying nodes on AWS for years internally within Ripple. So when we decided to create the CBDC ledger, we've deployed it through a sandbox on AWS as we sort of roll out projects with central banks. I think most of them will want a cloud infrastructure. There may be some for regulatory purpose that need to do an on-premise implementation. But I think certainly at this stage of pilots and proof of concepts and early implementations, people see the benefit of a cloud-based structure. And in fact, we will be using the CBDC ledger on the cloud as part of this CBDC Innovate program that I mentioned previously. My prediction is that pretty much every country that has a central bank will eventually issue a digital version of their currency.
So do I, James. Would you say, at least in the next decade, you think that a certain percentage will be moving this way? Regulations are just always so interesting, depending on what market you're referring to. But it looks like most governments and central banks seem to be quite open about digital currencies. So do you see this potentially happening in the next 10 to 15 years? That, most governments will, or central banks at least, will be more or be adapting to CBDC? I'm always very optimistic, and I think the leading countries that are furthest along, I think it'll be in the 2 to 5 year period.
And then he goes on to say, and in 10 years, it'll be so pervasive, we won't even have these kinds of conversations anymore. All right, now, what else do we got here? Let me tell you, I want to follow up with this little quick gem right here, because in this little very 1 minute clip, you're going to hear him talk about how they're going to get it done. The BIS mBridge MCBD solution. That's what the XRP Ledger project really is referred to as. And do I have something for you after this?
Right, we're using the same technology that it's with the XRP Ledger. The token would be the CBDC, right? So the central bank would actually create their own token, a digital euro, digital dollar, whatever the market is, and that becomes the digital asset.
So that becomes the digital asset. Keep listening.
The native coin.
The native coin, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, where XRP could come into play potentially is when you're looking at cross-border CBDC. So when you have a digital dollar and you have a digital real, or digital pound, you obviously need to have some way to interact cross-border. Yeah. So I think the BIS call this a multi-CBDC model. One of the ideas is you use a sort of a neutral bridge currency to go from one to the other. Similar.
He just told you the BIS calls it a multi-CBDC model, which the idea is that you use a neutral bridge currency. Let's catch that again. Thank you, James.
Or digital pound, you obviously need to have some way to interact cross-border. Yeah. So I think the BIS call this a multi-CBDC model. One of the ideas is you use a sort of a neutral bridge currency to go from one to the other, similar to the model I explained earlier, with our on-demand liquidity. Mm-hmm. But the core offering really is not XRP. There's no XRP involved. It's the native token is the CBDC.
Yeah, one of the ideas is to use a neutral bridge currency. That's exactly right. And thank you to James Wallace and Cindy Young. This is mBridge right here. Take a look at what it looks like.
Currently, there is a multi-day delay between payment and settlement for a typical cross-border transaction processed via the correspondent banking network. Conceptually, central bank digital currency, CBDC, can be used to substantially increase transaction speed from taking several days to near real-time, while also reducing cost by up to half. The Multiple CBDC Bridge, or mBridge project, is a cooperation between the BIS Innovation Hub Hong Kong Centre, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Bank of Thailand, the Digital Currency Institute of the People's Bank of China, and the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates to enhance
all where we have relationships. Isn't that interesting? Boy, does that just look exactly like the diagram of Ripple? I mean, seriously, look at this. Boy, does that diagram look a lot like that, doesn't it? Yeah, there it is right there. I tell you, it's just impressive to me, how they're able to talk about this so much and not reveal exactly what they want the retail people to know. Now, what's important is one of those partners there was, in fact, the Bank of China, right? So we need to remember that as we move through this information, because now I want to take you to this. Remember, it was Ripple. No, that's not what I wanted you to see there, is it? Yes, I did want you to see this about Navati, but that was from a couple of days ago. But Ripple Navati user is clearly expanding in Southeast Asia, Philippines, Thai-baht, April. We have covered all of that. But what I want you to see is this right here, because this is about the Bank of China, and I didn't mean to have that tab up, but let's keep the flow going, because the Bank of China is a part of that mBridge, as James Wallace described as one of the mBridge solutions is the XRP-Ledger as well, and XRP, one of those, right? So now, looking at this, Bank of China, we covered this back on July 30th, but now we have the U.S. translation. Shout out to Stuart Young and Michael Arnold Jr., Mighty Mike. Let's take a look at this. Key things to know about this, right? So this was July 25th, just a few weeks, a week and a half ago or what have you. Ripple is one of the leaders, Ripple Network Cross-Border Payments Remittance. You go into this thing, and it says right here, research and judgment on development of Ripple in the cross-border established powerhouse SWIFT is positive. Pace the innovation acceleration, and new competitors such as Ripple are emerging in the emerging payment space. On the other hand, Ripple needs to cooperate with SWIFT. That's what they're saying. I have said many times that RippleNet is the new digital version of SWIFT. Ripple needs to find the right position and form a differentiated advantage in order to be in the cross-border markets. Well, they have been. That's why they've been doing remittance, right? And I believe MoneyGram was a litmus test for U.S. regulators and other regulators around the world to see exactly how it worked. And when the lawsuit came in, they obviously had to dissolve that partnership because of those legal reasons. But you know what? That partnership was approved by the SEC, and they knew full well MoneyGram was going to use XRP in settlement. Now, look at this. Ripple and SWIFT promote each other and develop together as a recommendation by the Bank of China on the mBridge solution for BIS, for which one of the solutions of mBridge is, in fact, XRP in the ledger, according to James Wallace. SWIFT constrained by its traditional system structure. SWIFT remittances lack timeliness. Cross-border payment information chain is long, easy to cause information loss. The emergence of Ripple triggered the catfish effect, which caused a ripple in the field of cross-border payments. SWIFT accelerates the pace of innovation. They launched their new product, SWIFT GPI Go, which we know is instant payment, not instant settlement, and will promote ISO 20022 message format by the end of this year, which is supposedly November, confirmed now by the Bank of China as well as SWIFT, right? Let's keep going. Remember, Ripple and XLM and Stellar are the only two distributed ledger technology companies on the standard body committee of ISO 20022 payment language for banks and financial institutions. Solving the problem of neutrality here becomes the key factor, it says. Western countries have taken SWIFT as an important tool to implement financial sanctions. Remember, this is the Bank of China. They don't like all of that business. The future cross-border system, payment system, whether neutrality can be maintained, the key trade-offs here and considerations for users, Ripple as a Native American fintech company is inevitably subject to influence of U.S. regulators. As a commercial bank, it should be carefully considered, in the absence of effective means to avoid the risk of SWIFT sanctions, whether Ripple will step into another American trap. That's what they're worried about in China. It says Ripple Coin, which is obviously XRP, launched by Ripple, has a tendency to become a speculative tool. It threatens financial security and social stability, certain potential risks to maintain stability of Ripple. On the other hand, a stable exchange rate is formed by anchoring various legal currencies in reality, such as the US dollar, a basket of currencies, or a combination of commodities. Are you hearing this? The Bank of China has just laid out exactly how you create a global stablecoin with a basket of currencies and a combination of commodities. On the other hand, it is necessary to ensure that the currency has a stable support, preferably a one-to-one reserve, and the safety and liquidity of the reserve must be guaranteed, which means it's not fractional and it's held in a reserve where it cannot be touched. This is the conversation I had with David Schwartz in 2019, and I shared with you since then. One of the downfalls of stablecoins in our conversation with David Schwartz and myself at that time was simply this. It was simply that most stablecoins are backed by one thing, pegged to a dollar of some sort, or one commodity. Well, you could crash $1 in that reserve, in that regard, or one commodity or one thing, right? But if you back it by a basket of currencies in a combination of commodities, it will be extremely difficult to collapse that particular currency, which I believe could be a global stable coin at that point. And the only way to really collapse it is to have some kind of a world collapse, God forbid. And that's where we are on this day. I tell you what, things are getting interesting. The Bank of China knows exactly what Ripple and XRP need to do to become a global stablecoin. Make sure you check out Ledger Nano. They got great specials. I'm telling you, don't mess around. Click the link down below and get yourself one. Not your keys, not your crypto. I'll catch all of you on the next one.